If you're a fanatical Premier League fan like I am, or even if you're new to watching the best league in the world, one of the most interesting teams to follow is Arsenal Football Club. And now, while I myself am a diehard Liverpool fan, I still constantly find myself being entertained by Arsenal and their fans alike. And now in this video, I'm going to be covering the past 30 years of history surrounding Arsenal Football Club, covering the success that they had in the early 2000s to then the lack of trophies that they have been able to achieve over the past 20 years, and some of the factors that may have contributed to them not winning trophies in the past 20 years. And now I would like to ask you, if you're watching this video, please make sure to watch it in entirety, because there's going to be several points that I make in this video that are going to shock you. And now, before I get into this video, guys, I would like to ask you to please subscribe to the channel. I'm currently on track to 1,000 subscribers, as I'm just passing over 600 right now. Also, while you're at it, make sure to like the video and comment as well. Thank you all so much for your support. I appreciate each and every one of you. And now let's get right into this video. If you're an old head like me, your childhood was probably filled with watching Arsenal win. And while players like Thierry Henry, Patrick Vieira, and Dennis Bergkamp, amongst others, can be directly correlated to that success, really that success can be attributed to one man: Arsene Wenger. You see, when Arsene Wenger took over as manager of Arsenal in 1996, he altered the way Arsenal played in many respects. A style of play which included a high press when defensive, but also going forward, Arsenal were a very possession-oriented team. And now, me personally, when I think of that Arsenal team in the early 2000s, what comes to mind is the fact that they had fullbacks bombing forward. This was a common theme amongst many teams in the early 2000s, but for me, Arsene Wenger and Arsenal in those early 2000 seasons were one of the first teams to master it. And following Wenger's appointment as Arsenal manager in 1996, his impact was nearly immediate with the club, winning the Premier League in the 1997-1998 season, and then subsequently winning in the 2001-2002 season, as well as the very notable 2003-2004 Invincible season. Now, while many Arsenal fans and just football fans in general will highlight the Invincible season of 2003-2004, I think a season that really gets slept on Arsenal is the 2001-2002 season. You see, obviously in the Invincible season, Arsenal went an entire 38-game Premier League season without losing a single game, and that just speaks for itself. But in the 2001-2002 season, Arsenal became the first Premier League side in the modern era to not lose a single away game in a Premier League season, with their mere 3 Premier League losses that year coming at their home ground of Highbury. Additionally, Arsenal became the first team in the modern Premier League era to score a goal in every single Premier League game. And now I want to highlight this to you because when everyone thinks about Arsenal in the early 2000s, you specifically think of the Invincible season. But I think just shadowing the fact that they didn't lose a single away game in the 2001-2002 season really highlights how dominant this team was in the early 2000s. But unfortunately for Arsenal fans, the Invincible season of 2003-2004 was the last Premier League trophy that they have won to date. And combined with their lack of success for winning any European trophies, such as the Champions League or the Europa League, Arsenal have kind of gone into a little bit of a spiral where they have not been able to win that many trophies of significance over the past 20 years. But what are some of the mitigating factors or even theories that people have for why Arsenal have not been able to win trophies? One of the biggest theories amongst fans, either Arsenal fans or just global fans, is the development of the Emirates Stadium. You see, at the time development began in the Emirates, the value of the stadium was a whopping nearly £400 million. And now in today's day and age of 2025, £400 million is an outstanding amount of money. But you need to even take this back 20 years prior. That was an unbelievable amount of money. But at the time that development of the Emirates had begun, it was in the winter of 2004. Quite literally, right smack dab in the middle of the invincible season. Arsenal were flying high. And with the building of the Emirates in 2004 during arguably their best season of all time, and them moving into the stadium into the summer of 2006, they were fresh off reaching the Champions League final. Obviously, not winning the final against Barcelona was not ideal, but it was clear that Arsenal were still competing. But the first season in the Emirates seemed like the beginning of Arsenal's mediocrity. And I don't mean that to say that Arsenal are mediocre, but compared to the success that they had had in previous seasons, it seemed like it was the beginning of mediocre to what their standards were. They finished fourth in the Premier League, and star forward and legend Thierry Henry was injured for most of the season. This would prove to be his last season with the Gunners too, being transferred to Barcelona in the summer of 2007 in somewhat of a shock transfer. The same team that had beaten Arsenal in the Champions League final just 1 year prior. And now many people have attributed Arsenal's dip in form due to the fact that the money that was invested into the development of the Emirates Stadium. Now, while this may be true in some capacity, I also believe it was the size of the pitch at Highbury that was instrumental to Arsenal's initial success in the early 2000s. Highbury was widely considered the smallest pitch of any Premier League team. This made it difficult for traveling teams to score at Arsenal's ground due to the inability to make runs into tight spaces. On the flip side of this can be attributed to Arsenal's stellar away form. As I mentioned earlier in the video, Arsenal didn't lose an away game in the 2001-2002 season, and never lost any games in the 2003-2004 season. If you've ever played football at any level, you understand that a larger pitch allows for a team to make more creative runs into space. So Arsenal having to constantly play in a smaller pitch allowed them to adapt to larger pitches when traveling to away grounds. This offered them the opportunity to make runs into spaces that are not normally available at their home ground. It was a benefit to them to travel to away grounds, but on the flip side, it was also harder for traveling teams to come to Highbury and adapt to a smaller pitch. Nevertheless, whether it was the change in size of the pitch at Highbury versus the Emirates, or the sheer amount of money that Arsenal had to invest into the Emirates, clearly the move to the stadium marked a downward shift in the team. Now, while Arsenal were no longer winning the Premier League during the remainder of the Arsene Wenger era, it is important to still highlight the Frenchman's success. Following their last Premier League title in the 2003-2004 Invincible season, Wenger continued with the club for another 14 seasons. Unfortunately, towards the end of his tenure, his opinion with some of the fans soured somewhat, as it seemed as though Wenger possibly stayed a little too long at Arsenal. Now, I think it's important to highlight that following the 2003-2004 Premier League win for Arsenal, Arsene Wenger then successfully got Arsenal Champions League football for 12 successive seasons, with the 2 seasons that he did not get Arsenal coming in his last 2 seasons with the club. Regardless of whether you think he outstayed his time with Arsenal, getting Champions League football for that many successive seasons with any club is outstanding. To me, Wenger is one of the most successful Premier League managers of all time and should absolutely be respected as such. Following Arsene Wenger's departure with the club, Arsenal appointed Unai Emery as their manager. A manager who in his own right has had a lot of success in Europe, but he did not find this at Arsenal. While Emery helped Arsenal reach a Europa League final in his first season in 2018-2019, the club was beaten by rivals Chelsea 4-1 in the final. Now, while this is a little bit of an embarrassing scoreline just even to begin, it was one of Arsenal's rivals, and it ensured that they still went without receiving any European silverware. Additionally, Arsenal narrowly missed out on Champions League football this same season, finishing 5th in the Premier League. Adding insult to injury was their North London rival of Tottenham, finished 1 point ahead of them in 4th place, successfully getting Champions League football. And in the beginning of the 2019 season, Arsenal still continued to struggle, with Emery being sacked before Christmas. For a short time after Emery's sacking, Freddie Ljungberg was the interim manager for Arsenal, but before the club even reached Christmas, it was announced that Mikel Arteta, the former player for the Gunners, would be appointed as the permanent manager. Arteta's Arsenal managerial career kicked off in a success in some capacity, winning the FA Cup in the 2019-2020 season. However, they finished 8th place in that same season. And now fast forward to today, a lot is still to question with Arsenal, with Manchester City taking a steep decline in the current 2024-2025 season, which you would think would open a huge door for Arsenal, but that hasn't been the case. Rather, Arteta's side doesn't seem up to it, with Liverpool currently 6 points clear with a game in hand. The biggest issue that Arteta currently has with Arsenal is a trophy issue, with the club not winning a Premier League since the 2003-2004 season, and him not winning any trophy since the 2019-2020 FA Cup trophy. And it's obvious Arsenal have no European success, not winning a Europa League or a Champions League trophy ever in their history. The biggest issue with Arsenal Football Club is their inability to win trophies over the past 20 years. Will Mikel Arteta be able to figure this out and get some sort of trophy-lined success with the club? We have yet to see it, but I do think he has the ability. It's just a matter of if he is going to be able to get Arsenal over the line. If you enjoyed this video, please make sure to like, comment, subscribe, and click that notification bell so you know every time I make a new video. I'm currently on track to 1,000 subscribers, as I said earlier, and I make weekly and daily footballing content that you're not going to want to miss out on. Thank you guys so much for all the support you have given me, and I will see you guys on the next one. Peace.